Good afternoon, everyone. This is Dan Dix here reporting for Press for Truth on this Tuesday, March 31st, 2015. And we're coming at you today from the new PFT Command Center. And I'm very excited to announce our first in-studio video Skype interview is going to be with none other than the one and only Mike Adams of naturalnews.com and foodrising.org. So Mike, I'm so excited to talk about the Food Rising Project. Thanks so much, man, for coming on the show and taking some time to speak with us today.
Thank you, Dan. It's great to join you. Looking forward to our conversation. Where do you want to start, man? There's so much going on, so much to cover.
Well, I'd like to start where things began for you. I want to get into foodrising.org and all the innovative things you've been doing that with the 3D printing. It's incredible things that I want to get into. But before we do that, let's start from where this started for you with starting naturalnews.com. Why did you get so involved in this to dedicating your life to this work?
Well, to really sum up all of that, I woke up many years ago and realized that we were all really being lied to about health and nutrition and medicine and economies and politics and everything. And I'm a supporter of individual liberty. I'm a supporter of decentralized power, that is grassroots power. I think we need more individuals and communities and states to have power rather than power centralized in the hands of just a few global elitists or a few government departments that run everything. Mm-hmm. So Natural News was really about teaching people how to take care of their health by empowering them with information so they don't need pharmaceuticals. They don't need to be diseased and go to the doctor and have surgery and chemotherapy. Mm-hmm. You can actually prevent disease.
Now, how important do you think it is for food freedom? I mean, when it comes to maintaining your independence and not being controlled by the government, how important is food in that aspect of being free?
Well, food is crucial, and what really started this Food Rising project, I mean, obviously, you can't be free if you can't feed yourself first, right? Mm-hmm. I think it was Henry Kissinger who said, if you want to control the people, control the food. Mm-hmm. Food can be a weapon if it's withheld from you. Food can be a social engineering tool if the government only gives it to you when you obey, for example. I wanted to, let me back up and say, look, we're in the alternative media, which is really the new national press. We're the new mainstream media because we're the only ones asking questions. There is a tendency to complain a lot, but not to offer solutions. And I wanted to really take action to offer solutions to people that were practical, that were hands-on, mm-hmm. that could empower them with food freedom and disease prevention, allowing them to grow their own food and their own medicine. So I developed the Food Rising Grow Box system, and I designed it around parts that you can 3D print on your own 3D printer, mm-hmm. which is the industrial revolution of our modern age, mm-hmm. the desktop industrial revolution. You can download the parts for free. Mm-hmm. You can print them yourself. You can make these grow systems yourself. If you don't have a 3D printer, you can buy the parts off the shelf from places like Amazon.com, float valves and things like that. Mm-hmm. I also posted videos to show you how to make these systems yourself because I believe in empowering grassroots activists and freedom lovers who believe in being more self-reliant, being more off the grid, being more individually empowered, and that's what this project is all about.
Well, tell us a little bit about the system and even the bins themselves. How do they operate? How big are they? What kind of food can you grow in there? And where are you hoping to distribute these bins?
Well, the bins are about 25 inches by 17 inches. They are non-circulating and non-electric. That's the key. So they don't have any complex parts, no pumps, no circuit boards. They're 100% EMP proof for those who are concerned about EMP weapons. You can use them to grow food following a nuclear attack if you want, or a grid down scenario, or an economic collapse, you name it. You can grow everything from strawberries, spinach, lettuce, kale, tomatoes, cucumbers, melons, and we even have an adaptation that turns the bin into what's called a wicking box, mm-hmm. which wicks water into a coconut coir grow media so that you can grow potatoes, which are high calories, that will keep you alive. Mm-hmm. You can grow medicines such as garlic and ginger, which are highly medicinal. Right now, I'm even starting to grow my own turmeric medicine roots in these systems so I can produce my own raw, fresh, living turmeric, anti-inflammatory medicine from food.
Mm-hmm.
So you can grow all kinds of things. Obviously, you can't grow an apple tree in it or something. You can't do an orchard in a box, but almost anything that you can grow in a garden, vegetable, or fruit type of format, you can grow in these boxes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you asked if we're distributing them.
Yeah.
My answer may surprise you. Actually, what we're doing is, number one, we're giving away the plans to teach people how to make their own. That's our first goal. Secondly, we are selling them pre-made for those who don't want to make their own, but at the same time, we are providing permission to other people to make their own systems locally and sell them locally based on our design, and we're not charging them a royalty or anything. We're just saying, you want to make this and sell it at a farmer's market and empower people with this technology, you have our blessing.
Mm-hmm. Is this the kind of thing that you, let's say, for example, in the Bronx or something, can these be used in highly dense populated areas to give people the ability to grow for themselves?
They're ideal for that. They can be used on rooftops in cities, city buildings. They can be used on balconies. They can be used on windowsills if your window is facing south, typically is the best direction to face if you're in the northern hemisphere. Mm-hmm. They can also be used indoors if you're willing to have grow lights and pay the electricity for grow lights. Mm-hmm. So they can be used in small yards. Remember, these don't require soil and they don't require electricity. We're living in an era right now where food inflation is upon us. Food's getting very, very expensive, mm-hmm. more so by the month. These systems save you an enormous amount of money by growing better than organic fresh produce that is also giving you food self-reliance and letting you grow your own medicine at the same time. So mm-hmm. you're saving money, you're boosting your nutrition, and you're being more self-reliant, more off the grid, which means you're going to be a survivor mm-hmm. if there's any kind of disruption in the economy.
Seems like the powers that be who have been working to gain this control for so long are not going to like this very much. You must be rustling some feathers with this kind of technology. Who are you pissing off with this stuff? Is it Big Pharma? Is it the government? What kind of people are not liking what you're doing right now?
Well, there has been an effort by the federal government to criminalize home gardening, to criminalize fresh cow's milk from raw milk. Mm-hmm. To criminalize small farms, to criminalize seed saving, for example. Seed sharing banks are illegal in many states. That's at the state level, not the federal level. There has been an ongoing effort to try to criminalize home food production in America. So I imagine that this project will, of course, step on some toes of those Orwellian, power-hungry fascists and socialists and communists who are trying to destroy America. Mm-hmm. But, screw them. You have a right to grow food. You have a right to teach your children how to grow food. You have a right to save seeds. You have a right to feed yourself using free sunlight energy and the miracles of Mother Nature that are found in the seed. I don't care if I piss off a bunch of communists and socialists and control freaks. Mm-hmm. What I'm trying to do is empower individuals with solutions that work, that will keep you nourished, that will keep you alive in the next economic collapse. That's my focus.
It seems like that's one of the best ways to empower yourself. I mean, if you can be self-sustainable, you can be essentially off the grid, then you're winning through essentially global non-compliance, I've always said is the answer.
Well, you're exactly right. I don't remember who said this, but the revolution, any revolution in history, occurs not because you fight and defeat the existing system, but rather because you introduce a new system that makes the old system obsolete.
Right.
Like Bitcoin, for example, peer-to-peer cryptocurrency. Mm-hmm. It's not going to fight the dollar. It's going to make the dollar obsolete, things like that. So this grow system, this is only step one. I've got more inventions that I'm going to be releasing on foodrising.org that you could freely download and print yourself on your own 3D printer. I'll be releasing those throughout the year. It's just the beginning. We are going to empower people with these real practical solutions that you can share as digital files. And we want people to share these files. We specifically ask people to post them on torrent websites, post them on sharing websites, put them on thumb drives and hand them to your friends. We need to start tapping into the creativity, the innovation, and the compassion of humanity. and letting people share from the ground up, not have a government that tells us what to do from the top down and uses coercion and the threat of violence and demands for obedience as its boundaries for the population. That is tyranny, and we're not going to accept that in America. We're going to have a peaceful revolution from the ground up, based on innovation and the sharing of good ideas, and that's what Food Rising is all about.
Oh man, that's so exciting, because again, I think it comes down to, really just empowering the individual to know that he has it within himself. But the only way to be able to do that and step outside of this system from the government and the big pharma is to know that you have to have food freedom again. So that's why this is so exciting. Getting back to the 3D printer, where do you see the future of this going? There's big innovations going on with 3D printing and even with food. I recently heard about a 3D printing pancake machine and potentially being able to 3D print things maybe that you can even eat. I mean, where could this potentially go?
Well, I think it's the next great industrial revolution. It is a decentralization of manufacturing revolution. So if you look back at the classic industrial revolution, that gave rise to cities, high-density populations of people under centralized corporations who had the investment capital and the know-how and the technology to mass-produce products that were consumed by the suppressed, impoverished masses. Well, 3D printing turns that completely upside down. With 3D printing, you bring the Industrial Revolution to your desktop. You don't need a large corporation now to produce many of these objects, and the objects are going to become more complex very quickly as 3D printers become more advanced and evolved rapidly. You now have the ability to produce things that you need, practical items for your home, right on your desktop at very little cost, and you don't need specialized knowledge in order to do it. You basically download a file, you hit print, and almost like magic, you get this object that has some practical value. 3D printing is advancing to be able to print with carbon fiber filaments, as well as in the future, in the not too distant future, perhaps metallic filaments that are literally as strong as aluminum, for example. This opens up all kinds of possibilities to print your own tools, to print your own possibly simple circuit boards, to print motors, in fact, could be possible in just a few years from 3D printers. So this is the massive decentralization of access to manufacturing technology, and it is a revolution that will sweep across this world like no other in history. It will change the world more than the internet changed the world. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, it's so unbelievably exciting. It's just like you said, it's all about putting that power back into the hands of the people. So it's incredible time to be involved with this. For people who are watching this right now and are interested in learning more from you, and they want to maybe check out the bins and maybe learn more about 3D printing, where can they go to sign up with you guys and to learn more from you?
Well, you can check out my website at naturalnews.com. I have posted quite a few reviews of 3D printers. Foodrising.org, a nonprofit effort, that's where we'll be posting the freely downloadable 3D printable files that you can grab as we post them. You can go there right now and get the files for the grow box to create food production systems. But what people need to understand is that we are looking at a massive shift, a massive global revolution. The model of centralization and control is failing globally. Whether you're talking about the global debt collapse that's coming, central banks, which are really running what we might call a doomsday machine, bringing us to the brink of total economic collapse, centralized governments, their failed systems, a failed system of Obamacare, the failed government-run education system, which could be so much better if it were decentralized. At every level, food production, medicine, you name it, a decentralized structure would provide more freedom, more abundance, more economic opportunities, more liberty, more human rights, more everything that we value. And that revolution is coming, and we're just now entering the beginning stages of it.
That's true. It is in its infancy, but I think more and more people are starting to wake up to this because they're realizing now that they're being poisoned. They're realizing that their food is not good for them. The water is not good for them. The air is not good for them. And they're starting to look for alternative methods to be able to step outside of the system and they're finding people like you. So it's incredibly exciting time to be involved with this. Again, any final thoughts on just, the importance of food freedom and being able to sustain yourself and be outside of the government and being able to be healthy and essentially, cure your own problems with food?
Well, my biggest piece of advice in that era is to take seriously the responsibility to educate yourself and practice the practical skills that you need to produce food. I can't tell you how many people that I've spoken with who are preppers or survivalists who have a lot of seeds and they have a yard and they think that seeds plus yard equals food in a collapse. Well, it doesn't. If you don't know how to grow your food, if you've never done the work, if you don't have calluses on your hands from work in the soil, you aren't ready to grow your own food.
Yeah.
You need to do it beforehand, and this is true across all prepper skills, whether we're talking about firearms proficiency for self-defense, or how to make your own water filter to be able to drink clean water that you might find in a lake or a stream, or fixing it, just common repair. How do you repair a bicycle tire if you don't have a repair kit? How do you do these things? It's a hands-on exercise, and food production is very much the same. If you aren't practicing it before the collapse, you won't know how to do it after the collapse. The collapse does not confer you with magical knowledge instantly. You better know how to do these things beforehand. You better know how to stitch a wound, how to dress a wound. You better know this stuff.
Doesn't it almost seem that this generation has kind of lost a lot of these things? I think if you take the average millennial and stuck him in the woods, he wouldn't last more than 20 hours. It's something's happened with the last generation there.
Yeah, I know. Parents don't even let their kids walk home from the bus stop to their house these days. Like, they're afraid of nature. They're afraid of the outdoors. But that's why I really value parents who are, for example, homeschoolers who live on a ranch, and they teach their children how to milk a cow, how to take care of a goat, how to collect eggs from the chickens, how to grow food, how to do these hands-on skills. What does nature really look like and act like and feel like? These are the skills that are going to be known by the survivors.
Yeah.
If you're living in a city today, and there is a grid down collapse or a nuclear attack or an economic collapse, you're living in a death trap. Now, let's just be honest about it. You're living in a death trap. A city is an artificial structure that depends on external inputs for the city to survive even 24 hours. If the water stops, and most of the water in the cities today comes from outside the cities, right? That's almost universally true. If the food stops, if the farms stop bringing you food, if the electricity stops, and the electricity is normally produced outside the city, if these inputs are halted for just 24 hours, many cities can descend into social chaos extremely rapidly. Maybe not 24 hours, but certainly 72 hours without food and water and power. You'd start to see a lot of cities in this country really becoming total chaos. So if you're living in one of those cities and you're not really thinking in full detail about this, you may want to take steps to educate yourself, empower yourself with practical knowledge, and get out of the city if you can. Live somewhere else where you're safer.
Exactly. Get out of there and realize it's not just economic freedom. It's not just those sort of things that you need to realize. I mean, we see these crashes coming, but you also have to understand that if you can't grow your own food when these things happen, well, you're completely screwed. Once again, thank you so much for coming on. And again, tell the people the links once more where they can go to learn more from you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Naturalnews.com is the main website. The news, we have news every day there. And foodrising.org. And if you've got just 2 more minutes, I want to share one other thought on food storage with you. Is that okay?
Sure.
I'm actually going to do an article and maybe a video on this, but it's important for people to understand the layers of food preparedness. You've got your instant, ready-to-eat meals that you can just open and eat, and that's your immediate food supply, right? You've got your short-term storage, maybe canned food or dry pasta, things that you can prepare on a stovetop and make meals. That's short-term food supply. You've got your long-term food supply, which is maybe freeze-dried foods in number 10 cans, for example. Maybe you have a shelf of a bunch of cans of potatoes or wheat berries or oats or things like that. And that might have a shelf life from 2 to 10 years, depending on what you're storing. And that's great too. And most people are aware of these 3 levels of food storage, but they forget the 4th level of food storage. And that is storing nutrients and grow systems. So if you store nutrients, which are really ground up rocks that contain things like calcium, magnesium, zinc, molybdenum, nitrates, obviously calcium nitrate, potassium nitrate, things like that. These are, in effect, food batteries. Using seeds and grow systems, such as the Food Rise and Grow box that we were talking about, you can convert food nutrients into fresh produce in as little as 14 days for microgreens.
Wow.
So you can store about 100 pounds of food potential in about 1 pound of nutrients. So if you really want to maximize your food storage, you need to think about not just the immediate term, short term, and long term, but also the high density, unlimited shelf life food potential of storing food nutrients. Food nutrients being food fertilizers, basically hydroponic fertilizers for food. These are also the ultimate barter item because it's universally understood that you can convert these into food using food grow systems and seeds and water and sunlight, obviously. But I just want to bring your attention to that because there's a lot of talk about food storage, and it's very valuable talk, but usually it doesn't go far enough. It doesn't understand food potential of storing nutrients.
Well, the nutrients could quite literally become maybe even the currency of the future.
Well, salt was a currency in Roman times, right? And that, salt, we wouldn't throw salt in a food box, but salt actually contains many of the same minerals that food need. Salt is very high in magnesium, for example, or sea salt in particular, and magnesium is one of the main elements that's used in hydroponic grow systems. So, yes, I can absolutely see if there is a barter economy. Obviously, gold and silver especially are going to be barter items. Ammunition, especially .22 long rifle ammo, is going to be a big barter item. But also, you're right, food nutrients will be a barter item, and fresh food. So if you have the ability to grow fresh tomatoes and you are in a collapse scenario and you can take those tomatoes to the local market where everybody's bartering and trading and trying to survive, suddenly you're the king.
Yeah.
You're a wealthy person because you have fresh tomatoes.
Yeah.
And what will people trade you for food? If they're starving, anything. You might be able to trade a bucket of tomatoes for a car.
Yeah.
In the right scenario. And you might even say, I don't even want the car. I'd rather have the tomatoes.
Yeah.
What use is the car? We can't get gas.
Exactly. Well, we seem to be preparing ourselves for these things in all aspects of our lives, and maybe some people are leaving out the food aspect. So again, thank you so much for bringing that up and pointing that out to these people to let them realize just how incredibly important that really is in order to protect yourself. So awesome stuff, man. Thank you once again for taking some time to speak with us here today, and keep up the awesome work. I see now why they call you the Health Ranger.
Well, thanks. Great to be on your show. We'll talk again soon.
Take care.